Greetings, Commanders! My name is Eagle, and in today's video, we're going to be featuring the best infantry officer pairings in case of war. If you like these types of videos where we give you officer tips for their skills, their prioritization, their talent trees, in addition to their best combinations, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as we have just hit today over 512 subscribers. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for your support, as it's been insane lately. So thank you guys. As we are in the official content creation team, we'll be giving you regular uploads of Case of War so that you guys can benefit from it. So in today's video, we're going to be featuring 4 officers that have the infantry talent tree. Firstly, we're going to go to the epic tier, starting off with Evelyn, then going to Riven, and then after that we're going to move on to the legendary tier featuring Angelica, and finally Loubna. We're going to go through their skills, how to prioritize their skills, and which talent trees fits these officers the most, and what pairings would I recommend using in the battlefield, depending on what exactly the purpose of this specific officer is. In addition to that, we're going to as well show you how to unlock these officers, as some of them are have specific ways to unlock them. So firstly, let's start off with Evelyn. Evelyn is one of my favorite officers, as she is very easy to obtain. She can be obtained in both mainly using the encrypted notes, which are obtained from an event called Trial of Heroes, which right now is on actually. So this event, what you do is just simply attack invaders and you will get warrior chests. When you open these chests, there's a chance that it might drop one of the level 1 or level 2 or level 3 envelope note. And once you use these, you can actually summon troops that can be attacked, and you would be able, that can be rallied, and you would be able to get potentially Evelyn badges from them. So mainly she is very easily obtained. That's because of the fact that you can do that with your guildmates, so your chances are pretty much higher. The more AP you have, or the more AP you spend, the higher badges of Evelyn you will be able to get. I think Evelyn is actually a phenomenal officer. This is because of the fact of her first skill over here that gives a healing multiplier of 350 to 3 different targets, which I think is pretty solid, especially if you are doing fights with huge amounts of troops, so many marches on the battlefield. So this would be the most utilized point where you can actually heal multiple troops at a time. In addition to the fact that once you awaken her, you would be able to actually increase that healing multiplier to 500 and recover rage for the target by 50 as well. So you would be recovering rage for multiple targets, in addition to healing them for a huge healing multiplier of 500. So I think that this ability is most beneficial when it comes to events that are in the campaign, for example, the arena or Operation Overlord. Because these events, you can actually control the location where you actually place Evelyn. And I think she is phenomenal if she is placed near 2 targets or 2 ally marches. This way, she would be healing her own march in addition to 2 other marches. And this way, you would maximize or utilize her healing ability and actually do a huge difference in the battle. Her second ability is just a gathering ability. What it does is actually increases the gathering speed for any type of resources by 25%, in addition to the unit load speed by 25%. And I think that Evelyn as well is a pretty solid gatherer, due to the fact that you can actually increase the gathering speed by 25%. And if you build her as a gatherer, you would be able to obtain an additional 25% from Gathering Master, and definitely, of course, the percentages that are gained from the talents over here. So definitely, moving on to the third ability right now, which basically increases the infantry attack by 10%, and it has a 10% chance to increase the troop defense by 20% when maxed out for 5 seconds, which I think is pretty solid as well, because this one, or the second one, it increases all the troops' defense, not only the infantry. So that means if you're running her with, for example, Chloe, that means that you'd be benefiting all types of troops and increasing their defense. The final one, which I think is phenomenal as well, is that you can increase your normal attack by 25% of your troops, which I think is pretty solid as well, as it's a passive skill and it's always on. So that means your troops will be hitting all the time by 25% more damage. So I think Evelyn is a pretty solid officer. What I would do so there's two ways to use Evelyn over here. Either as a pure gatherer, which what you would do is go and, of course, her skills prioritize. Of course, you have to max out her first skill. It's phenomenal. And then what I would recommend is actually maxing out her second skill immediately. This is because of simply the ease of actually obtaining her badges. So what I would do is utilize her as a gatherer in the early stages of the game, because early then you wouldn't be needing her as a fighting officer, and this is because of the fact that your troop count would be low, so that you can't actually run 3 different marches at the same time in order to utilize her healing ability. So what I would do is actually build her as a gatherer in the early to mid game, and then afterwards I would build her as a secondary support officer and the mid to late game, because she would be phenomenal then, as you would be using multiple marches at a time, and you can actually utilize her support abilities then. So what I would do is max out her first ability, then max out her second ability. And actually, what I would do as well, if you want to build her as a pure gatherer from the beginning, you could as well max out her second ability and then go back to the first ability, then max out the fourth, and then afterwards the third ability. This is because of the fact that 25% more normal attack damage is much better than 10% for early infantry. So that if you run her with multiple troop types, then you would be benefiting more. For talents, what I would do in the late game, in the early game, what I would do is max out the gathering tree and then move on to the support tree, going all the way to total march over here. Then basically just moving on with the support tree and moving on to the second total march that is down here. However, if we were talking about the mid to late game, where I'm right now exactly, what I would do is build up all the way to the support tree, all the way to the end over here, making sure that I max out Battlefield 8 first to increase that healing effectiveness by 10%, and then moving all the way down to Pursuit Master. After I finish that, I would definitely go to the infantry tree and start increasing the points over here, making sure that I max out Swoop Down for the extra rage recovery, so that you can actually heal your troops more often, and then moving down all the way down here. This way you would actually benefit your infantry to increases their attack and speed, in addition to gaining more rage and more healing effectiveness. I think that Evelyn is a phenomenal secondary officer that works best when matched out technically with anyone. However, I do like to match her out with officers that have the general tree, so that you can actually benefit more from her as a support officer. So basically, Chloe is a perfect example. Technically, you can actually match her out with pretty much anyone. Doreen is a pretty good example as well. I do like to match her out with Helene if you would like to go with the general skill tree on Helene. So technically she can be matched with everyone because of the fact that the support tree can actually benefit all types of troops, and the nature of her abilities that allows her to benefit all types of troops, only giving 10% to infantry attack, which is pretty cool as well. Moving on to Riven over here, which has the infantry, skill, and siege tree. So Riven's first ability is actually attacking, so dealing damage up to 3 targets in front, damage multiplier, dealing damage in some sort of like half a circle right in front of her. That means basically like exactly like Grace's ability if you have seen her. Dealing a damage multiplier of 850, which I think is pretty solid, and decreasing their speed by 30%, which I think is pretty good as well because of the fact that you can decrease the speed of multiple troops. So if you're trying to chase out multiple troops in the battlefield, this is a pretty good ability that I would definitely utilize. Moving on, so when she is leading troops to attack an enemy base, you would increase their attack by 7%. I'm not a huge fan of using her as a siege officer because of the fact that simply this ability over here isn't 100% utilized, because when you're attacking a base, you don't really care about attacking multiple targets. You need to deal either like deal burst damage to one target or debuff and buff a target, for example like Doreen or even like Chloe. However, in this case, it's not really super effective because what you're doing is actually dealing a less damage multiplier. You're not adding any buffs to yourself or debuffing the enemy troops. And it doesn't really matter if you decrease their speed because you're attacking base at the end of the day, so it doesn't really matter. So what I would recommend is not using Riven as a siege commander or a siege officer and using her purely for infantry and skill. Moving on to her third ability, it's basically increasing your attack of the infantry by 15% and the speed of the infantry as 10%, which is a pretty solid one. And the last one is for a normal attack, it will give you a 10% chance to increase the damage dealt for the next 4 seconds by 30%, which I think is pretty solid as well. When she is awakened, she will increase, or she will get a 300 damage multiplier buff, which I think is pretty solid as well. So as you can see over here, she is more built as an infantry officer rather than a siege officer. So for talents, what I would do is max out the infantry tree over here and then go for the skill tree. An alternative to that is moving on the skill tree. Once you reach Burning Rage, you stop on Burning Rage and then start investing in the infantry tree, making sure you max out Swoop Down to increase or maximize the rage generation, and then moving on till you reach Infantry Master. This is because of the fact that once you actually get Burning Rage over here, you would recover Rage more often, especially paired with Swoop Down over here. This way, you would actually be more effective in the field because her damage multiplier over here, when she is awakened, is pretty solid, and I think she works best when you go max out the skill tree all the way down to Burning Rage and then max out the infantry tree all the way down to Infantry Mastery. She is best paired with technically any infantry officer, so you can pair her up with Evelyn as a secondary, so Riven as a main and Evelyn as a secondary. I think they are a pretty cool combination if you have an infantry march as a free-to-play player. If you have one legendary, for example, Angelica or Loubna, then I would definitely pair Riven as a secondary to one of those. I think she works pretty good as well. Moving on to Angelica. Now, Angelica is a pretty phenomenal officer, and what I like about her is the huge damage multiplier of 1400, while decreasing the attack of the target by 40%, which is a huge debuff, in addition to 10% speed decrease to the target. So as you can see, infantry have this kind of debuffing to the speed, in addition to buffing their speed because of the fact that she has the mobility tree and because of the fact that infantry units are the fastest units from all the types, from all the other types. So that means that they decrease the speed of the enemies and they increase their speed. So they are pretty solid for chasing down enemies or even bailing out from multiple troops of swarming. So what I would do, before I would go through her, I just wanted to talk about the ability, the skill prioritization. I would max out the first skill and then move on all the way to the third skill, max it out to get that sweet speed and attack of the infantry, max out the fourth skill, and then go back to the second skill because, as I said, I don't recommend her as a siege officer. So for Angelica, I would max out the first skill first, and then move on and max out the second skill, and then the fourth, and then, sorry, the third skill. So first skill, third skill, fourth, and then second. This is because of the fact that I already think that there are multiple jungler officers that are better for attacking invaders, rather than investing in an infantry officer that has a mobility tree as well. So I think that Angelica works best as an infantry officer that utilizes the mobility tree to actually gain that super extra movement speed buff. So you can utilize her in places like, for example, raiders, or even simply when you're trying to attack multiple troops in the battlefield and running away. However, I do think that if your goal is, hey, to attack jungler or to attack invaders all around the map, like running around the map, just attacking invaders, then hey, you can go jungler and mobility tree. But I don't think that's super effective, in my opinion, to be honest. I think that infantry and mobility tree would give you more advantage, especially as well in kill event. If you're trying to move between tiles real quickly to kill those gathering troops with your infantry march, then I think this would be the most effective build for her. So you would max out this one over here, which would give you 20% speed increase, in addition to 30% infantry attack, which is a huge amount. And this one over here, you would have a 10% chance to actually recover 100 rage and reduce the damage received by 30% for 5 seconds, which I think is phenomenal as well, because she would be a rage engine recovery. The last one over here increases the attack of infantry under their command by 25%, but reduces their defense by 10%, which is, hey, you know, it's kind of cool because of the fact that it's like getting a free 15% attack boost without losing anything. So I think it's pretty cool over here, right? However, this, like, you have to take care because of the fact that you are decreasing your defense by 10%, so you might want to not be attacked by a tank march, for example, or else they would actually deal a lot of damage to you. For the talent trees, I would definitely, and this build is specifically used for raiders, and I always like to use it for raiders. So if you don't have her at a high level, go for rapid march first, and then go all the way down to infantry march over here to get that sweet 20% as well. After you do that, make sure to go all the way over here to total march, max it out, and you get that 10% extra, and then max out the whole infantry mastery because of the fact that you can actually get agile breakthrough over here, which would give you a 10% chance to increase your speed for the next 2 seconds as well, which I think is pretty cool. So mainly, as you can see, the build for Angelica is exactly the same build that I would recommend for Loubna. In terms of talent trees, because of the fact that these two officers over here, when paired together, and when one of them is 5 stars, then this is the fastest march possible. I mean, you would be able to obtain the fastest march possible in the game. This is because of the fact that when pairing the infantry tree with the mobility tree, you can actually max out the bonus march speed that you are gaining from these two trees, especially if they are doubled because they have the same trees over here. So that means that you will be maxing out the march speed of this march when you are running it purely with infantry troops. And this is the best march that I recommend for raiders when you are trying to obtain the artwork from the museum. So what you should be doing is actually putting Loubna as primary and Angelica as secondary. It doesn't really matter which one. The most important thing is that the secondary one is 5 stars so that you can actually gain the talent tree buffs. And then going with tier 1 infantry troops, a max march of tier 1 infantry troops. I understand that it will be a very fragile march. However, if you were to obtain an artwork, you would definitely gain that artwork. The artwork, due to the fact that these two marches would give you like a huge amount of speed, especially paired with this ability over here, which gives you 60% increased speed when you get out or when you leave the battle, which would definitely happen when you are doing raiders. So they will try to attack you because you have the artwork, while you were gaining 50% reduced speed from the outwork debuff. However, once you go out of combat, you will be able to get that sweet 60% speed increase, which will completely neglect that 50% that you got debuffed from the outwork, and you would be running as fast as possible back to a territory while your allies are actually protecting you. So I think for Loubna, in addition to that, she is very phenomenal over here. Especially because of this first ability, which actually deals damage in a radar range. That means in a circle around you, you'll be attacking up to three targets. So I think she is phenomenal over here for anti-swarming, or when you are like in a battlefield that has a lot of troops, when you are like especially fighting for like an artwork and there are like multiple troops around you, then this ability would be utilized to the max, because it gives as well a 30% damage taken increase to the enemy troops, in addition to 30% attack decrease to their troops as well, which is a huge debuff, in addition to 1200 damage multiplier, which can be upgraded into 1400 damage multiplier when awakened, in addition to another debuff, which is actually decreasing the skill damage of the enemy troops by 20%, which I think is phenomenal. Moving on to his second skill, which is basically increasing the damage dealt to invading forces by 50%, because she has the jungler tree. Not really recommended, so I would max out the first one and then immediately go for the third one. This is because she will be definitely intensively used in raiders for stealing the artwork from the museum. So I would definitely max out this one as well, so that you can actually have more sustainability by 30% by increasing your infantry defense. This way you would have a little bit, like a couple more seconds just to get out of combat without taking huge damage. And afterwards, you would max out this one over here, which will give your, when your troops are under 60%, their normal attack damage will be increased by 60%, which is huge over here, especially when you are like running away from an enemy and then your health drops by 60%. You would definitely be able to move back into the battlefield, especially like if you have a high tier infantry march, then hey, you would be dealing some damage over here. Especially versus anti-tanks, which I think is very phenomenal officer versus that. Afterwards, the fourth skill that I would max out is her second skill, so the order would be the first, third, fourth, and then second. And this way, basically, what I would do, as I said, max out Loubna to level 5 stars, and then Angelica, pair them up together, and use them in raiders intensively for stealing the artwork. So this was it for today. I have some comments about Loubna. However, we'll be doing a video soon about her. We're gonna actually be doing a series after this. We're gonna drop a new video for beginners, next one, and then we're gonna be doing a series of officer guides, like complete officer guides for each officer. What are their abilities? Where exactly should you use them? And what pairings for that specific officer work best? We're gonna actually give you some battle reports as well to show you guys which officers fit best together, depending on the officer we're featuring in that video. So for this video over here, I just wanted, basically I'm done right now with what I wanted to talk about in this video. However, what I wanted to talk about as well is that I'm gonna be doing live streams on YouTube for Ghost Rebels in addition to Raiders. So right now we have reset the difficulty level. We have already finished the difficulty level for the first one, and now we have reset the difficulty level. So we're still back at level 1. However, for Ghost Rebels, we have we're able to obtain the first place in the first place in the first Ghost Rebel and the second place in the second Ghost Rebel, and then we were able to obtain again the first place in the third one. This means that we are actually doing the Ghost Rebel event to the finest, and in the live stream we will show you guys how you as well can get up to the top 10 in the individual points to gain those sweet rewards over here that will actually give you a lot of goodies over here, especially if you get at least in the top 10, which you will be gaining these rewards over here. So you will be expecting the stream, the live stream to start tomorrow at around like 17:30 UTC. That means 5:30 p.m. UTC. At that time, I'll be starting the live stream. We're going to be talking about, first of all, Ghost Rebels event, how you can actually distribute your guild so that you can actually get the maximum guild points out of that. And then once the event starts, you guys will be able to see how exactly am I getting to the top 3 pretty easily, just by using or memorizing the patterns and utilizing my troops in different places, trying to protect lower power players. So mainly we're going to be doing that tomorrow, and I would like to thank you guys so much for watching this video. From now on, we'll be adding timestamps in the description below, so you would be able to see it down in the video exactly which officers we're talking about and which parts of the video, so that you can click on wherever the hell you want and watch that part, so that you can actually gain the information you need without having to watch the whole video if you are a veteran player. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.